What I'm about to share with you is not hype, and it is not a miracle cure. It is a clear-eyed look at what the best available research actually tells us about lowering cancer risk after the age of 50. And by the end of this video, you will understand not only what to do, but why it works inside your body, right down to the level of your cells. Here is something that a surprising number of people over 50 have never had explained to them properly. Some of the most powerful tools for reducing cancer risk available to you today cost nothing, require no prescription, and can be started before you finish watching this video. My name is Dr. William Lee, and I want to be upfront with you. I am a health educator, not your personal physician, so nothing here replaces the advice of the doctor who actually knows your history. But I have spent years reading the research on why cancer risk rises with age and what genuinely seems to move the needle. What I found has changed how I think about my own daily habits, and I believe it can change yours too. Let me start with the big picture, because it sets the stage for everything that follows. Large observational studies over the past 2 decades, following well over 100,000 adults for years at a time, have consistently pointed to the same conclusion. People who cluster together a specific set of everyday lifestyle habits tend to have meaningfully lower rates of several common cancers than people who do not. Now, I want to be careful and honest here. These are associations, not guarantees. No habit removes cancer risk entirely, and genetics, environment, and plain luck all still play a role. But the direction of the evidence is strong and remarkably consistent, and that matters. When many independent studies keep pointing the same way, it is worth paying attention. Before we go any further, I genuinely want to hear from you. Drop your age in the comments right now. Just your age, or a quick note about your biggest health concern after 50. Knowing who is actually watching helps me make content that serves you, and I read as many comments as I can. Today I am going to walk you through 5 of the most evidence-supported cancer risk reduction habits for adults over 50, ranked from foundational to the one I personally consider the most powerful. Each one builds on the last, and I promise the 5th will surprise many of you. So stay with me, because the habits work far better together than any single one does alone. Let us begin with habit number 5, and it starts with something on your plate. Every cell in your body is constantly replicating, dividing, and replacing itself. In a healthy body, a process called DNA repair acts like a proofreader, catching errors in your genetic code before they turn into permanent mutations, and before those mutations have any chance of becoming a tumor. Here is the part that matters after 50. The efficiency of your DNA repair machinery tends to decline with age, right at the moment when decades of ordinary cellular wear have allowed the most errors to accumulate. So your internal proofreader is getting slower exactly when it has the most work to do. This is where ultra-processed foods enter the story. I am talking about packaged snacks, fast food, processed deli meats, sugary drinks, and the highly refined products that make up a huge share of the modern diet. A growing body of research links diets very high in ultra-processed foods with higher rates of several cancers, particularly colorectal cancer. Large studies following adults over many years have found that those eating the most ultra-processed food tend to have measurably higher risk compared with those eating mostly whole foods. And importantly, some of that association appears to hold even after researchers account for body weight, smoking, and activity levels. In other words, it is not only about the weight these foods can cause, the composition of the food itself, the refined ingredients, additives, and the way it drives chronic low-grade inflammation appears to be part of the problem. Chronic inflammation is the key word. When your body sits in a constant low simmer of inflammation, it creates an internal environment that is friendlier to abnormal cell growth and harder on your repair systems. Ultra-processed foods tend to push inflammation up. Whole foods tend to bring it down. So what does this mean for you starting today? You do not have to overhaul your entire kitchen overnight, and honestly, people who try that usually give up within a week. Instead, make one concrete swap in each meal. Replace one ultra-processed item with a whole food equivalent. Morning cereal becomes oats with berries. The packaged snack bar becomes an apple with a handful of walnuts. The processed deli meat becomes grilled chicken, a hard-boiled egg, or a scoop of lentils. These are not deprivation choices, they are protection choices, and your cells feel the difference. And here is the connection to remember. When you combine cleaner eating with the very next habit, the drop in your overall inflammation compounds in a way that is greater than either change on its own. Which brings us to habit number 4, sleep. When most people think about sleep, they think about feeling rested. When I think about sleep, I think about your immune system, because sleep is when a huge amount of your body's internal defense work happens. Your immune system includes specialized cells, including what are called natural killer cells, whose job is essentially to patrol your body, spot cells that look abnormal or early-stage dangerous, and eliminate them before they can establish themselves. Think of them as an internal security patrol, working around the clock. Here is what many people do not realize. The activity of these immune cells is heavily influenced by your sleep. In particular, the deep, slow-wave sleep that dominates the early part of your night is when your body does a great deal of immune regulation and repair. And here is the age factor. The proportion of deep sleep your body naturally produces tends to decline as you get older. So the very repair and defense window you most need may be shrinking unless you actively protect it. The research on short sleep is sobering. Studies have shown that even short stretches of sleeping fewer than 6 hours a night can significantly reduce natural killer cell activity in otherwise healthy adults. And broader analyses pooling many studies have linked chronic short sleep with higher risk of several cancers, including breast, prostate, and colorectal cancer. I want to be measured here, because sleep research is complicated and the size of the effect varies from study to study. But the overall message is clear and repeated. Consistently starving yourself of sleep appears to weaken one of your body's core anti-cancer defenses. So what is the most actionable place to start? Sleep researchers point to something called anchor sleep, and it is beautifully simple. Commit to the same wake time every single morning, even on weekends. Your wake time anchors your internal body clock far more powerfully than your bedtime does. When your wake time is consistent, your whole sleep rhythm tends to organize itself around it, and the quality of your sleep improves. A few supporting moves help too. Keep your bedroom cool, dim the lights and put screens away in the hour before bed, and keep the room genuinely dark. Even a single week of consistent wake timing can measurably improve the structure of your sleep in adults over 50. And when you pair better sleep with the dietary changes from habit 5, your body's inflammatory baseline drops to a level where your immune surveillance system can do the job it was built to do. Now let us move to habit number 3, and I want to reframe a word before I use it. The word exercise carries a weight, a sense of obligation, that causes a lot of adults over 50 to mentally tune out, so set it aside. What I am really talking about is purposeful daily movement, and its effects on your biology are specific and real. At the center of this is a growth signaling hormone in your body. In youth, growth signals drive healthy development, but later in life, chronically high growth signaling, which tends to accompany a very sedentary lifestyle and high blood sugar, can act a bit like fertilizer for abnormal cells, encouraging them to multiply. Regular moderate movement is one of the few everyday interventions repeatedly shown to help bring those growth signals back into a healthier range while also supporting the tumor-suppressing systems that tell damaged cells to stop dividing. The research on movement and cancer is some of the most robust in this whole field. Large studies following adults for a decade or more consistently find that those who get regular moderate activity on the order of 150 minutes a week tend to have lower rates of colon and breast cancer and lower overall cancer mortality. And here is an encouraging finding for anyone who dreads the gym. Research suggests that simply breaking up long stretches of sitting with short walks every hour can reduce blood markers of harmful inflammation, even without any structured workout at all. Movement is movement, and your body counts all of it. I love this habit because it is so adaptable. If you have arthritis, if you cannot run, if a traditional gym is out of the question, none of that disqualifies you. A brisk 20-minute walk after your largest meal, standing up during television commercials, a 5-minute stretch and walk break every hour during a long afternoon. All of it adds up. In fact, research on post-meal walking is particularly encouraging. A short walk after eating helps blunt the blood sugar spike that follows a meal, and steadier blood sugar means less of the metabolic fuel that abnormal cells thrive on. So here is your starting point. Take a 20-minute walk after your biggest meal of the day. You do not need equipment. You do not need a membership. You need your front door and a bit of consistency. And when this movement habit layers on top of the sleep from habit 4 and the cleaner eating from habit 5, several of the most important cancer-promoting signals in your body can shift downward together in a way no single change achieves alone. Now, if you are finding value in this so far, let me pause for one quick request. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and share this video with someone over 50 you care about. This kind of content takes real time to research and produce, and your support is what keeps it freely available. Thank you, genuinely. Now let us talk about habit number 2, and I know exactly what some of you are thinking. Stress management sounds soft. It sounds like a wellness buzzword rather than something with real biological teeth. I want to gently push back on that because chronic psychological stress is one of the most underappreciated influences on health as we age. The main character here is cortisol, your primary stress hormone. Short bursts of cortisol are healthy and completely normal. It is your body's emergency response, and you want it working. The problem is chronic elevation, the kind that comes with persistent stress, anxiety, grief, loneliness, or unresolved strain. When cortisol stays high for long periods, it can disrupt immune function, dampen the activity of the immune cells that hunt down abnormal cells, and push your body toward that chronic inflammatory state we keep coming back to. Researchers have also observed that prolonged stress can interfere with normal DNA repair and with the finely tuned daily rhythm your body depends on. The research on stress and cancer is genuinely complicated, and I want to be honest about that rather than overstate it. It is very hard to isolate stress from everything else in a person's life, and scientists rightly debate how much of the effect is direct versus indirect through things like poor sleep and worse habits that stress tends to drag along with it. But studies have linked chronically elevated stress with reduced activity of the immune cells that attack abnormal growth, and broad analyses have associated high chronic stress with somewhat higher risk of certain cancers. Even if part of that effect runs through sleep and behavior, that is all the more reason to take stress seriously, because it touches every other habit on this list. Here is the encouraging part. You do not need a therapist, a retreat, or an expensive app to start, though there is nothing wrong with any of those. Research suggests that even a modest daily practice of slow, mindful breathing, done consistently over several weeks, can measurably lower cortisol and support immune function in older adults. So here is your starting point today. 12 minutes, a quiet chair, slow breathing, in through your nose for a count of 4, hold gently for 7, release slowly for 8. Add a short evening walk with your phone left behind, and make a point of regular real connection with people you care about, because loneliness itself is a genuine physiological stressor. And when you combine this with the sleep from habit 4, the effect deepens, because high cortisol is one of the main things that fragments the deep sleep your body needs for repair. And now we arrive at habit number 1. Everything we have covered so far, the food, the sleep, the movement, the stress regulation, all of it prepares the ground for this. I want to be very precise because this habit is often oversimplified or dismissed as just another weight loss fad, and that is not what I mean at all. What I am describing is time-restricted eating, and the mechanism behind it is a fascinating cellular process called autophagy, from Greek words meaning self-eating. When your body has gone several hours without food, typically somewhere in the range of 12 to 16 hours after your last meal, it ramps up a kind of internal cleanup and recycling program. Your cells begin identifying and dismantling damaged components, misfolded proteins, worn-out cellular parts, and clearing them away. Think of it as your body running a deep maintenance cycle that it simply cannot run while it is busy digesting. Here is the age connection again. This cleanup process tends to become less efficient as we get older, and modern eating patterns make it worse, because when food is available and consumed from early morning until late at night, your body may almost never spend enough uninterrupted time in the fasted state to trigger a robust cleanup. When damaged cells and cellular debris are not cleared, they accumulate, and accumulated cellular damage is one of the deep biological foundations of cancer. The human research here is still maturing, and I want to represent it fairly. But controlled studies have found that adults who confine their eating to a consistent window of around 10 hours a day tend to show improvements in metabolic markers, reductions in inflammation, healthier growth signaling levels, and signs of increased cellular cleanup compared with people eating across a very long daily window. Trials of consistent eating windows in older adults have pointed toward reduced markers of DNA damage and improved function of the genes that suppress abnormal growth, without requiring anyone to count a single calorie. That last part matters. Much of the benefit appears to come from the timing and the fasting window itself, not from eating less. And here is why I put this at number 1. Time-restricted eating amplifies every other habit we discussed. It helps bring growth signaling into a healthier range, the same target as movement. It supports a steadier daily hormone rhythm, reinforcing your stress regulation. It tends to improve the depth of your sleep, and it lowers overall inflammation, even on days when your diet is not perfect. This is why I think of it as the master lever. Pull it, and everything else in this video becomes more effective. So what does it actually look like for you? Simpler than you might fear. You do not skip meals. You do not count calories. You establish a consistent eating window of roughly 10 to 12 hours, and then you protect it. If your first cup of coffee with cream is at 7 in the morning, your kitchen closes around 7 in the evening. If breakfast is at 8, aim to finish dinner by 6. Outside that window, water, plain black coffee, or unsweetened tea, and your body handles the rest. One important caution, and please take it seriously: if you take medication, especially for diabetes, or if you have any history of an eating disorder, talk with your own doctor before changing your eating schedule. This habit is powerful, and it deserves to be personalized to you. Now let me bring all of this home, because what we have covered today is not a scattered list of tips. It is an integrated strategy, and each piece reinforces the others. Habit 5. Cutting back on ultra-processed foods removes one of the main drivers of the chronic inflammation that burdens your DNA repair machinery, the internal proofreading system that becomes less efficient after 50. Habit 4. Protecting your sleep restores the immune surveillance that serves as your body's frontline defense against early abnormal cells, defenses that can be sharply undercut by chronic short sleep. Habit 3. Daily purposeful movement helps rein in the growth signaling that encourages abnormal cells to multiply while supporting the systems that tell those cells to stop. Habit 2. Stress regulation helps normalize the cortisol rhythm that otherwise interferes with repair and immunity and pulls down chronic inflammation. And Habit 1. Time-restricted eating activates your body's deep cellular cleanup and amplifies every other habit on the list. I want to say something to you directly, and I want it to land. It is never too late. The research I have described does not come from studies of 20-somethings with perfect genetics. Much of it comes from people exactly like you, adults in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, who made targeted, realistic changes and saw measurable improvements in the markers that matter. Your body retains a remarkable capacity to repair and protect itself at every age when you give it the conditions to do so. And let me repeat the honest caveats, because you deserve the truth rather than a sales pitch. None of these habits is a guarantee. None of them replaces cancer screening, and I want to be emphatic about that. Colonoscopies, mammograms, and the other screenings appropriate for your age and history catch cancers early when they are most treatable, and no lifestyle habit substitutes for them. None of this replaces the guidance of the physician who knows your personal history. What these 5 habits offer is not magic. They offer a genuine, evidence-supported way to shift the odds in your favor, and shifting the odds over years and decades is exactly how prevention works. So here is my challenge to you. Do not try to do all 5 perfectly starting tomorrow. That is the fastest path to giving up. Instead, choose one. Maybe it is the 20-minute walk after dinner. Maybe it is a consistent wake time. Maybe it is closing your kitchen a little earlier in the evening. Pick the one that feels most doable for you right now, and simply begin. Then, once it feels natural, add the next. Small, consistent, protected habits, repeated over time, are what quietly reshape your biology in your favor. If this video gave you something useful, do me a favor and pass it along to someone over 50 you love, because this information should not be a secret. Leave your age and your biggest health question in the comments, and I will do my best to address the most common ones in a future video. Subscribe so you do not miss it, and most of all, take one small step today. Your future self, healthier and steadier years from now, will thank you for the choice you make in the next 24 hours. Take care of yourself. You are worth the effort.